What's up, hotties? It's your girl Leslie. Welcome back to the channel, and we are on Vlogmas episode 3. We're in front of my beautiful tree, and we're gonna be doing a little get to know you sort of thing today. I'm gonna be interviewing my husband and putting him into the hot seat because I want to ask him 10 questions about what it's been like for us to be married for 10 years. People have all sorts of questions about relationships, and what better way to actually get to know me even more, the hot mommy, than to ask the person himself who's chosen to spend his life with me. Okay? So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. This video is just for you. So I've never had a guest onto the channel, with the exception of, like best friends of the show, but I've never had anybody sit down with me, and I really wanted to sort of dive into what it means to be who I am and show you a little more of myself. And so I'm going to be interviewing my husband today. We're putting him in this little hot seat right here, and I'm going to ask him questions about just our lives and what it's been like to be married for 10 years. I think that, it's an accomplishment if you think of marriage as an accomplishment, but really I just think it's all about what it takes to grow with somebody and to continue to choose them day after day, year after year. I hope that this interview is something that can inform you, maybe help you in your own relationships, maybe teach you something a little bit about yourself, but if nothing else, it'll just give you an inside scoop and a little view into my life and what it means to be me, the hot mommy. Enjoy. This is Jordan, everyone. I did not tell Jordan any of these questions, so I'm just kind of asking him them blind, and then I'll also answer so that you can, hear what my thoughts are. But I thought that this would be fun. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so after 10 years of being married, I think that we probably know a little bit.
A little bit about each other?
I think a little bit about each other. I think a little bit about marriage. I think a little bit about, partnership. You know what I mean?
I'd say.
That leads us to, I think the first question is actually a great segue. So my first question is, what's the one piece of advice that you would give yourself 10 years ago, knowing what you know about marriage now?
Oh, I think I was one of those people that expected marriage to be the kind of final completion to my life, and that this would be the thing that would bring me that lasting happiness. And what I've learned is that marriage doesn't bring that lasting happiness. No other person can, no other thing can. You have to find that lasting happiness within. The biggest lesson has been that marriage is an addition to your life, not something to complete your life.
Yeah, I think that my advice would probably be along the same lines, that marriage is something you do, it's not something you are. And I think that, especially growing up for me, being very much told, these are the things that'll make you a good wife, and this is how you become a good wife. And I think during the first few years of our marriage, I was very focused on that. This is how I have to show up, because this is what it looks like to be a good wife. And I think that the advice I would probably give myself is, be yourself. Figure out who you are, and this man that you've chosen, if you believe it's a good choice and he believes you're a good choice, will understand and appreciate that. You don't need to put on almost this performance of wifehood. You know what I mean? Because a wife can be whatever, right? You can become a wife just going to the courthouse and getting married, but people are different. And so, that being said, the word wife doesn't encompass one kind of thing and one kind of person, and I think it's the same for a husband. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the advice I would probably give to.
Nice.
That Jordan answer right, don't be crazy. Was it love at first sight? I know he's gonna say. Good.
I don't think it was love at first sight, but it was very intrigued at first sight. I don't know if I've fallen in love with anyone at first sight. So for me, this whole idea of love at first sight is a bit kind of crazy, if I'm being honest, but it was definitely highly intrigued, definitely attracted. So there was, there was a lot of excitement.
Yeah. I knew he was going to say that. I'm like, I was waiting for him to be like, no. Which I think is fine. I think sometimes, too, when people are almost saying love at first sight, I often wonder if they mean, like, actual love, or they mean there was this instant thing about that person where they were like, I have to have more of that, right? Where it's kind of like, I don't know what to describe this as, or I've never felt like this about someone. And I do think that people experience that. So yeah, I mean, I think I would agree. Like, I don't know if it was love in the way that we think of love now. Like, that day that I met him, would I have said, like, I'll do anything for you? No. But I think that it was very much like, but what is this, right? What is this thing? Like, why do I not want to maybe stop talking to you? I mean, like, the first time Jordan and I met, we talked for hours, and it was almost just like...
Yeah, I mean, we were at that barbecue and sat for 5 hours.
Amongst other people.
Yeah, everyone else kind of faded into the background, and we talked about a variety of topics. We made plans of different things we wanted to do together. So for me, that is as good as it gets, actually. I don't know. Real love, I think, between two people takes a little time to grow.
To build, yeah. I don't even know if it's like, I do think that there's an attractiveness, obviously, right? Because there's something attractive about the person, whether it's physical attraction, whether it's like something about their personality, whether it's their energy. And I don't always think that that attributes to lust as much as it's like there's just something very attractive about this person that I need more of, and that I want to have more of, and I can't, like, I need to explore that. You know what I mean? I think that obviously to me makes more sense than someone saying they're in love at first sight, because love is an action. It's about the things you do, not just something you say. So yeah.
I don't know if I would agree that love is an action. I mean, when you're in love with someone, I mean, I don't know. You got 8 more questions.
I know, man. This is too deep.
Maybe this needs to be another
a series, right?
Another.
Jordan and Leslie in love. How would you say that children affected our dynamic?
Definitely at different points in time, especially when the kids were really young, it created a little bit of extra space between us. It is difficult to have a really good romantic relationship when you have little kids.
Yeah.
We're able to come back together. But children definitely changed the dynamic for us. And, you know, I think there were times where having children created some different challenges for us. You know, sometimes some kids were more drawn to one of us versus the other. Yeah. So there could be some envy when you have certain kids paying more attention to other parents than others. Our children went through periods of time where they were, you know, pushing us and challenging us in different ways. That's a nice way of saying they were being a pain in the ass. And that can test a relationship. Right.
That's very true. No, I think that's great. I do think that there's almost this idea that, like, you get married and it's almost this constant up sort of situation, and I don't think that it's that. People don't account for the ebbs and flows and the valleys, and, you know, first of all, pregnancy is challenging, you know, and if you're someone like me, I was very sick during all of my pregnancies. It was really hard for me, you know, and so I enjoyed being pregnant, but I was sick a lot, and so it was just really hard to kind of do anything. And then once you, like, have a kid, being pregnant with other kids, you know what I mean, it still requires you to parent. And then you have a baby, and then you're trying to, like, be everything for a newborn, but you have a toddler and you have a kid. And so, you know, I do think that that caused a bit of strain on our relationship. But I think that this is what I mean when I tell people marry well. You know, marry somebody. When people think about marrying well, you know, they think socioeconomically, financially, and all these things. But you want to marry with somebody who is generous in nature. Patience, you know, even when it was something that needed to grow, and I think we both have grown in those areas, you were still generous with it and with me. Excuse me. And I think even with our kids, and that can be hard. Like you said, you know, they're people, right? I think that we always say that we never like think of them as possessions. They have their own personalities, they have their own thoughts. You know, we want them to act accordingly, but they don't always. And I think that you want to marry well and be with somebody that can understand how you want to parent. And even if sometimes it doesn't align, because it hasn't always aligned. I think now, again, 10 years later, we can say, like, now we on the same page. And it's just kind of like, it's really kind of us against y'all. You know what I mean? Like, and I always say to them a lot, I'm like, it's one of me and three of you. Or there's two of us and three of you. So, like, we're stretching, you know. And sometimes that stretch has definitely put a strain on us. But I think as we've matured, it's become easier. What season of marriage do you think we're in now?
Long, cold, hard winter. I think the season that we are in is, I feel like, you know, we went through some challenging times, which in my experience from what I've seen is pretty normal for couples to go through challenges. I think we handled the challenges real well. I think we worked through some difficulties with one another, but also within ourselves. And I think we've come out of the other side in a really strong place. So I think I don't know if you're better at putting a title or coming up with some creative title for what season we're in, but we're in a really good place, I guess. I feel like we're strong and united, and we get along with each other, and if there's something that's bothering one of us, we talk about it with the other person.
Yes, we do.
So it's a season of growth, I guess.
Okay. I think we went through a winter, and that was really hard, where it was just kind of like, it felt a little dark. It was giving dim. And I think we were both like, Lord, help. Probably in spring, if we're really thinking about seasons in that way. You know, I think that seasons obviously can be figured out in a multitude of ways. You can apply it to that sort of, you know, phrasing, or I think, like you said, we're in a season of growth, right? Like, so I think in that way, I would say we're almost in a season of rebirth. I think it's very true what they say about like the 7-year itch and feeling that whole kind of thing, because I think that's like kind of around the time where like COVID happened. There was just so much happening in the world that I think it affected us personally, and then it affected us as a couple, and then there was just so much going on. We've gone through that hard moment, and we figured out what we needed to address. We figured out what we need to fix within ourselves. You know, you spend a lot of time, you. But at the end of the day, you the only person that is with the problems that you have. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
you gotta look within.
I think the best thing that happened to us and what got us out of that winter was that each of us stopped looking at the other person and saying you, and we each looked within and worked on ourselves without any excuse of but the other person this or but the other person that. And that was what ultimately changed things around. And any time I caught myself blaming something on you, I went, no, Jordan, you got to fix that within yourself.
Yeah, I think I started being like, maybe I'm the problem. You know, and that's hard. I don't think a lot of people can do that. You know, people go to their grave not being able to do that. And like, it's a challenging thing. By no means is that easy. But I think if you want to live the most free life you can and be in relationship with a partner or with friends or with family, the most ideal way that you're going to be able to do that is by working on yourself.
Yes.
So that brings us to the center point of this conversation. Thank you, Jordan, for being on the hot seat. How do you think we get through the hard moments? That's a deep breath, sir. What? Elongated sigh.
I had to think deeply. I think that there's a appreciation that we have for one another, and there's not only that we love one another, but we genuinely like the other person.
Yeah.
So we don't get fed up or impatient So I think we're grounded, or we have strong roots. And I also think a certain kind of optimism and a belief that things can get better, things can be improved. Having optimism and a belief that you can head into a better place is really powerful.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think that, we have strong roots. I think we started our relationship, we talked about everything, ad nauseum at points where I would be like, Jordan, stop talking to me. Like, please. Now, we don't really, one thing I can say about Jordan and I is even when we're irritated with one another, and that happens, right? Like, and I'm a person, I think I'm easily irritated, but I'm not easily angered. Jordan will be like, what's the difference? But it's a difference. Like, because anger to me is deeply rooted. Anger is usually from like an unmet need or like budding resentment. So I don't harbor a lot of anger toward anybody, to be honest. Now will I be irritated by your decision? Absolutely. Am I irritated by something you've done? Yes. If I feel anger starting to take place, then I'm very good at, I think, addressing that. And I think that that's how we get through those hard moments, because I'm like, yo, I'm getting mad and I don't like that. So whatever this is right here, let's just fix the problem. What's the root issue? And I know Jordan can attest, I always say that to him. Well, get to the root. What's the real issue? Because it's not whatever it is you're talking about. So if something is bothering you that much, then just tell me what the real problem is so that I can fix it, or we can fix it, or whatever. How we definitely get through those hard moments is, to your point of, we have good roots. We have that expectation of one another. I think that it makes it so that we're able to have those challenging moments and conversations a little easier than we probably could if we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Number 6. Now, some might say this is a little fishing, but honestly, who doesn't want to know? Jordan, what do you love most about me? I mean, honestly, it's for the people. They need to get to know me.
Yes. I enjoy about you.
I said love most.
Oh, my bad. Really, there are a lot of things. I love you have a never-ending supply of creativity that just flows out of you, and that's something that's always impressed me. I think you have you're very resilient. You don't get knocked down for long, so if something doesn't work out, you will dust yourself off and get back up and keep on moving forward. Well, I find you attractive physically, and that's important. So I love the way you look. You are really in touch with other people and what other people are going through, and I guess that's empathy. You're a pretty empathetic person, and I think you are very curious to understand why people are feeling the way they are. You care, but you're also curious to understand, and those are some things that come top of mind.
Aw, give me a kiss. I love you. I love about Jordan. You're very generous, right? I think you're generous with your heart. I think you're generous with your love and your care for other people. I think you have a natural heart to want to help people. Like, that's something you've always talked about, even as a successful business person, all the things deep down underneath that. I think the reason that you've been so successful in that is because of your desire to make sure that everybody else gets to be their best self too. Like, I think even when you don't feel like your best self, you're trying to ensure that someone else can get to their best self, which I think only continues to keep you blessed and keep you, elevated. I think that you're willing to change, which a lot of people don't have, right? Yeah. And I think, too, a lot of men struggle with that. They're very like, this is me. It's kind of like, oh, boo, you could grow. I love that about you. I love that you are, the willingness to change, I think sometimes is even more important than if somebody can do it immediately. You're always willing. Even if you may not agree, even if you're kind of like, okay, girl, whatever. You know what I mean? You're like, I'll think about it, or I'll look into me. And more often than not, you come back to me and you say, like, you know what? I was wrong, and this is where I could be better. So I think the quickness you have to apologize is very strong. I don't think a lot of people possess that, you know, because they don't want to feel taken advantage of. There's this fear that if you apologize to somebody, it almost makes you look weak. But what they don't realize is that, you know, that vulnerability makes you strong. I love that you're just comfortable in any room. Like, this man, I really could take him anywhere. And like, I just love that you are yourself in that room and in that space, and there's no question of like, should I be like this or should I do something a little different? You show up as who you are, and you know when to like kind of pull back, you know when to get a little louder, you know when to be like, I don't really have nothing to say, so I'm gonna just be quiet. And I appreciate that, because I think like I am not a person, contrary to probably popular belief, that goes into a room and wants to talk to everybody in the room.
Nope.
That is like that's not necessarily my strong point. Like, now if you get me in a corner and you get me in a seat and I'm talking, or I'm sitting at a table, oh yeah, that's all me. But Jordan's gonna walk around and he gonna come back to me with 7 people and be like, look who I met. And I'm like, who the fuck is that? Hey. You know, like, that's like the perfect balance, you know? So finding somebody to balance that energy, because it could come off to people like, oh, she thinks she better than me, or she's stuck up, or whatever. You know, you don't make me feel bad about that you just kind of be like, okay, well, I'll pick up the slack, you know, in that area. You know,
I appreciate that.
of course. And obviously he's
Give me a kiss.
No. I mean, you know, obviously he's handsome and all of the things. You're a great dad. I like hanging with you. Like, I like hanging out with you. You're funny.
We enjoy it.
Yeah, we enjoy one
We
another's
enjoy
company.
each other.
We have a good time.
We keep each other laughing.
Yes. There's a lot of laughter in this relationship, in this home. That is. So number 7 is, and I mean, we kind of answered this, but it's, what's your favorite thing about me? And yeah, I think my favorite thing about you, though, is your generosity. Because I think that it just is far-reaching. Generosity with your time, even though sometimes I feel like I don't always get enough of it. Jordan works very, very hard. He's always working. I appreciate that. But
Speaking of work, we need to wrap this up. I gotta get back to work.
Exactly. I knew that was coming. You're generous with your time. You're generous with your heart. You know, you're obviously generous with your little ducats. I appreciate you. Joy. You just sort of like give it. And you kind of like, you can have it. I got more where that comes from.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I don't think I ever really thought about that. Appreciate
a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I can't pick one over the others. I mean, I could add more to the list, but I can't pick one. I can't just pick one.
One single thing? Fine, Jordan. Okay, I'll take it.
Number
8. What is your favorite memory in these past 10 years?
Oh, wow. Favorite memory?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, but I'll go with wedding day.
Oh, yeah. That feels easy. Oh, but I know what you're about to say. Okay, go ahead, sorry. Do apologize. Do go on.
After we had the ceremony, we went into the little room in the back, just the 2 of us, and we looked one another in the eye. We kissed each other, and we just started crying.
Yes.
And it was tears of just joy, and I think I'll speak for myself. I know that it was an emotional day in a good way, but there was a lot of emotions, and there was just so much commotion going on. And then having that moment to just kind of look at you and I just realized, wow, you know, this is real. It happened, and I was really happy that it did. And I think I was just overcome with joy, and tears of joy were just pouring down, and we just kind of cried and held each other, and that was very special.
Aw, that was sweet. That was a special moment.
What about you?
My favorite memory. I honestly think it'll probably be so when Jordan and I started dating, we both were like living with our parents, and it just felt like chaos in my life at the time. And so I just felt like you were just like a breath of fresh air in my life. So my favorite memory is really a series of times, but I guess it's like every Wednesday we would go to this restaurant and we would just like sit at the bar and have a beer and just hang out and talk and debrief the day. And, you know, it just became kind of like our thing to do. And so then it just became this weekly ritual where we would go there every Wednesday and like sit at the bar and talk and laugh. And I looked forward to it so much because I was like, this is just such a good time with this person. And in the midst of those times, I remember there was this one particular day or night, and we were like walking, and I don't know what I was sad about. I remember you just kind of like looking at me, and you stopped and you held my face, and then you were just like, you're an amazing person, and not enough people have told you that. And I was just like, it was like this floodgates of just like, oh my gosh, you know. And we hadn't known each other long, but like I said, it was just kind of like the moment we met each other, we just got along so instantly. And so it just felt like, what an amazing feeling to be understood by a seeming like stranger. And so I will never forget that, because I don't think, you know, I've had like a few moments like that in my life, but that was a time where I just felt like, oh man, he really, like, this person sees me and kind of like, how do you know me? Like, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, I just met you. What? So it just felt good to like be seen. And so I think that that's probably one of my like favorite memories.
Still see you.
Oh my goodness, the same. Okay, 9 is, what do you think is the best trip we've ever taken? And we've taken a lot of trips.
The most recent trip we took to Japan.
Yes, that was a good one. That's your favorite one? The best one so far?
I mean, that was pretty great.
Yeah.
I think we enjoyed one another quite a lot on that trip, and Japan was very cool.
Yeah.
So that for sure. I really enjoyed the trip we took to France when you were pregnant with Clark.
Yes.
So that was like a little over 9 years ago.
Yeah, like that was almost 10 years ago.
We had a lot of fun on that one too.
We did.
That was a good trip.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed those ones. I was like just about to say, I think one of the things that I love is just like going to new places with you and discovering them together. I would say probably like Italy was one of my favorites.
Oh, that was pretty great.
Yeah, like, so being able to spend 2 weeks in Italy and just like go throughout, and you know, we just had a really good time. Like, you know, we were in the Dolomites and we were in Venice. You know, we just went to all these different places. And us, again, just like walking down the street and laughing and having a good time randomly, you know, like getting a tattoo. Like, it was just, you know, it was fun. I really enjoyed that. So
That was good.
Final question.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. You've done a good job. You've been a great guest,
thank
sir.
you.
You've been a great
Thank
guest
you.
on the inaugural episode of The Hot Seat. Okay, so my last question for you is, do you think marriage is hard?
Marriage is hard. In my opinion, if your marriage is going to be joyous and fair and overall a fun, positive experience, then you have to be constantly willing to look within. And so the hard part about marriage, in my experience, is the growth you have to do with yourself. It's also hard work from the standpoint of you have to constantly be willing to consider someone else's needs. And that took me a while to get used to. And I think, you know, something I still struggle with at times, where I have to ask myself, okay, well, I want to do this, but is this the best thing for Leslie and I, for our family? So I do think it's hard work, but I don't feel like overall, when I think about marriage, I don't think, oh, marriage is hard. I think marriage is hard, but that's not the main experience of marriage for me. The main experience has been one of just, joy and celebration of life and love. And so you see that distinction there? It is hard, but that's not the primary or overarching theme of marriage in my experience.
I think that's good to know, because before you get married, so often everybody's like, oh my God, marriage is so hard. Like, this is going to be the most difficult thing you ever do. And for the longest time, the reason I say that I thought Jordan would find this funny or interesting is because I would always be like, it's not hard, right? Like, that's not the word I'm going to use to describe this. First of all, it's a choice, right? You don't got to be here. Like, you don't got to be here. I don't have to be here. I think, like, you choose to get up and be with somebody every day, you know? And so, to me, when I think about, like, something that's hard, it's like, it's something dreadful. It's something that I don't look forward to. It's something that is like, here we go again. This, you know? So, for me, that word, I would not say marriage is hard. Is it challenging? Yes. I think that the challenge that people face is what you said about having to think about and consider somebody else. And I don't think that it's hard. I do think that it's an active choice. I think that it can be challenging when you don't want to make what I guess would be considered the right choice all the time, or the most beneficial choice all the time. And so if you find that hard, then yes, you know, I get why people say that. But I do think that sometimes marriage in and of itself gets this bad rap. If you choose well and you marry somebody well, it is not to say that you will not face challenge. It is not to say that you won't disagree. But I don't think that it has to day be a hard thing. And so I think that if you are waking up every day in your marriage, in your relationship, and you're like, this is hard, or this, you know, my nerves, then you may have chose wrong. Like, maybe that wasn't the best choice for you. Maybe that's not what you should have chosen.
I think that's really important, because overall, this doesn't feel hard overall.
Yeah.
Having a successful marriage is a lot of hard work that you have to put into it.
Sure.
But I wouldn't consider our marriage overall hard.
Yeah. I think that, like, anything that you want to be done successfully, that you want to see a benefit from, requires something of you. You cannot go to, whether it's a friendship, whether it's your job, whether it's your YouTube channel, you cannot go into it thinking this is just going to arrive to me. And it's going to arrive to me packaged and well and exactly how I want it. No. Even when you marry a good man, he's still a man. like, men think differently than women. You know what I mean? Like, we see the picture a little differently. And so, I don't think that marriage is 50-50. I think that in some areas, like, Jordan is the primary breadwinner in our house. So, it's really 90-10. It's like 100%. You know what I mean? Like, but Jordan doesn't necessarily take care of our house. That's definitely 80-20. You know what I mean? I do the majority of that. Like, so I think that... And that's extremely important, and it's a lot of work. I don't think that your marriage on day one will be like it is on day whatever this is, 10 years later. No, like, you have to be willing, for it to grow. You were going to say?
I was like, no, definitely not.
Yeah. I just think that, by and large, this idea that marriage is so hard is its main focus. And I don't think that it has to be so hard.
I am very grateful to go through this journey with you. And thank you for bringing me onto the channel here.
You're welcome. I know I rarely ever share, like, actual pictures and photos of, Jordan and my kids, because I feel like this is a life I chose. So I give y'all bits and pieces because they're here, they exist, but, like, it don't have to be for everybody. And thank you to Jordan for coming onto the hot seat and sitting in the hot seat.
That's a pleasure.
And answering all my questions.
I enjoy
appreciate it.
Spending time doing things with you.
And as always, I want to say thank you to the hotties for being here, for tuning into the channel. Please, if you love this video, be sure to drop a little ring emoji in the comments so that I know that you stayed for the whole thing and that, you just were soaking it up, honey, eating it up. And if you have a question for me and Jordan, whether it's about relationships or about marriage, or you feel like you want to know a little something more, now listen, be on your P's and Q's. Don't be asking me no foolishness, okay? But I think that we're happy to share, this is one of the things that I said when Jordan and I first got married was that I wanted our relationship to be a blessing to other people. And I think that, I hope that it has been. So, yes. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give your girl a big thumbs up and share this video with all your friends, all your homies, so that we can keep growing the Hottie gang. And until next time,